Hey everybody, welcome. We'll start in just a second. How's everybody doing? I'm going to have a great talk tonight. Hopefully your weekend went well, and whatever time of day it is, I hope you're making it awesome. So we'll start soon. Just give it a second. We're about 30 seconds behind, so we'll continue in a second. And today we're talking about basically living in a world of complainers, and why complaining is so toxic for so many different people. But let's begin, shall we? I want to start by saying the Druid's Creed, which was adapted from the Larson Creed of 1912. My name is Druid Nicholas Declan, founder of the Druid Circle, founder of the Druid Order of Blessed Stone and Wood, and founder of Druid University. Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet, to make all your friends feel that there is something worthwhile in them, to look at the sunny side of everything and to make your optimism come true, to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best, to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own, to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future, to wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you meet a smile, to give so much time to improving yourself that you have no time to criticize others, to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble, to think well of yourself and to proclaim this fact to the world, not in loud word, but in great deeds. To live in the faith that the whole world is on your side so long as you are true to the best that is in you. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. I appreciate it. Invite your friends or anyone you feel would benefit from a video regarding living in a world of complainers. Living in a world of people who bring you down. And before I begin, I want to begin saying that, there's, I guess my thought is that I don't want you to think in this video that, I don't believe that, ism exists and ists exist and phobia exists, because it does. It does. Even though it's improperly being used, it's actually, there does exist hate because of the way one appears to be. With that being said, I would like to also add that there is also real reasons to be emotional for. Disaster does exist. Poverty and sickness, they do exist. Pain exists, crisis exists, hunger exists, and real harm exists. And that's not the purpose of tonight's talk. Because what ends up happening is that while these exist, I want to focus on not the serious events, but those other events that exist that aren't warranted, that I believe to not be warranted. I want to start with a reading from Lewis Spence on the history and origins of Druidism. And I'm going to go ahead and just take my goggles off for a second so I can read this to you guys. Just give me a second here. Page 78. The Mile Oak near Oswestry in Shropshire was deemed sacrosanct, and a local ballot declared of it the following: to break a branch was deemed a sin, a bad luck job for neighbors, for fire, sickness, and the like would mar their honest labors. This, folks, speaks volumes to what I want to talk about tonight. Because if you were to summarize what I would be speaking about tonight, that's it. That's it. And you guys also know that I do these live, so there is no cut. There is no splicing. There is no, like, let me, speed things up. The pauses that I take are real because I don't think that... I think we live in a world that's so fast where information is needed so quickly. It's not the way humans naturally process things. So I want to begin. I want to begin with, something that I observed with the Democratic Socialists of America. And this is a perfect example of why we live in the world of complainers. And most of this, these people actually believe. I believe there are political cults today. And these political cults, trust me, when, you guys know I've been on the left, and coming from a person that's been in DSA meetings, it's pretty wacky. It's almost like going to church where you go in, there's welcomers that, it's almost somewhere in between church, I say, and a landmark meeting. But funny enough, I knew things were going astray when I left the left, but more importantly, when I was there, it started getting just a little bit too culty. And I didn't like that sort of feeling. I didn't mind speakers. I didn't mind listening to different thoughts. But I also did mind where I felt like I was at church. And that was pretty interesting. So when I simply, use political cult rationale here. And it does exist. So it was funny because the other day I just heard from my coworker who had a kidney stone, and the kidney stone was really it wasn't able to be passed, and she was rushed to the hospital right after she worked here for me to help with Jeremiah, and you guys know I'm a professional caregiver, and so after she left, she just started developing these pains. They got worse and worse and worse. They rush her to the hospital, and they find out that she has this kidney stone, and they had to do surgery. So they did surgery just yesterday, whatever time it is, just imagine it was yesterday. And then they rushed her to the hospital and they did surgery, and so I checked on her today and she wasn't able to speak, but tomorrow we're going to go ahead and visit her. I bring that point because right after she had left, I then go onto the tube and I just check some things out while Jeremiah was working on something, and so I thought I just checked this thing out, and I was like, wow. I'm like, this is crazy. And so it's a DSA meeting, a Democratic Socialist America meeting, or political cult. And so they're there, and here it begins. So the one dude is there, and he's like, you're using... So it's one dude's there. He's like, I can't handle it. It's all... Everybody's speaking over each other. use guys, please, use guys, stop it. And then another person gets up, and they say, I'm assuming it's a they because I didn't know what it was. So I said, and they said, hey, stop it to the person that was trying to calm everybody down. Stop using gendered language. Well, it didn't stop there, because then a person, on a wheelchair, and this is what they don't show in the video, a person on a wheelchair gets loud and says, as black as my wheelchair, you all need to stop using ableist language. And then on top of that, a person from the collective says, y'all need to stop, using racist language. And so what ends up happening is that this is the reason why when you begin to doctor and create problems when they don't actually exist, when people are simply just trying to communicate, and you're in this world of or PC culture where it's so ridiculous and almost, I would say hilarious, and two, I'm sure the Druids would look at this and be like, what alien world is this? I think what ends up happening is that you end up comparing something like that, which is considered harmful, to, say, Lisa's, kidney stone, or a person, in stage, living with stage free esophageal cancer. You end up looking at these things and saying that these children have no clue what real struggle is. And I think, since I've been to my last DSA meeting, or I would say political cult meeting, I would say that it just simply gets worse as time goes on, because these are people who don't find joy in life anymore. They don't find joy in anything, because either they are being paid to doctor things, or they are being they are or have been indoctrinated and brainwashed to believing that their life would be better by living as a complainer. And I think that that's sad, because what ends up happening is that there's a difference between, a genuine, I guess a genuine event to raise emotion with, and you can handle that by venting it out with others or complaining. And the difference between venting and complaining is that when you vent, if it is true emotion, you get it out and that's it. It's done. But if you go ahead and you complain, what ends up happening is you enter into a world of, I would say it's repetition, and that repetition plays over and over and over again, and all you end up doing eventually then is complaining. And I think that one comes from, genuine emotion, and one comes from deceptive emotion. Deception is by far one of the most trifling of, I think, actions. I think it's definitely a vice, and I think that when you deceive another and to make yourself look good, then I believe that you are in a position going against the God or gods of your understanding. And that's something that you need yourself to live with. Either way, I think that if you vent, the obsession is that there is sort of a genuine worry, a genuine concern, a genuine fear. But even in venting, if you continue to vent over and over again with other people, you're going to end up in a position where that venting is no longer venting, and that venting is becoming obsessing. Whereas the complainer, if it is obviously and genuinely an emotion coming from a genuine emotion, it becomes compulsion because it continues to happen over and over again. You see, I would say, complaining, there is no satisfaction. It is simply a complaint, and that is it. Whereas in venting, you get it out, you get it open, you air your grievance, and it's done. And I think that that is the problem we have today, because we live in a world where complaining has now become the norm. And I would say, even as we opened up with Spence, I would say that this is pretty comparable as we start talking about why I believe that the Druids would have believed that complaining is displeasing to the God or gods of your understanding, to the pantheon of your understanding, to the kindred of your understanding. Because complaining does a number of things. Number one, it creates victimization. I'm the victim. Woe is me. Look at me. And I think that that's a problem, because nothing's being solved. Number two, it's disruptive to a positive environment. You're having a wonderful time, and then somebody gets in the room and they just start complaining about everything. They're just constant complainers. It creates agitation, and I believe in some way it is a contagion itself. The other thing that it does for the complainer is it gives them a sense of locus of control, and that control is only imagined. It's fake control. They feel by complaining they're in control of a situation, and they're not. You know, it also ingrains, I guess, as we talked about this false satisfaction, and that false satisfaction only leads to repetitive complaining, and that repetitive complaining continues to aim at something that isn't there. So you're basically trying to achieve without any possible end result. Remember, in complaining, we are not venting, right? There is no sense of wanting to get it out and relieve yourself of it. There is no catharsis in it. And I think that the manipulation of the complainer is such that the person on the end, on the receiving end of the complaint, that isn't necessarily true, is devalued. So you complain so much that not only is the other person being devalued, but then at the same time, the person doing the complaining is devaluing themselves. It also undermines confidence in that you, as the complainer, will then use this method instead of getting yourself out of the position, looking at it positively, and moving up. You know, Trump continues to say, we're winning, we're winning, we're winning, we're winning. Look at all the attacks. They keep winning because they're not a complainer. You know, it also, you know, it also creates unwarranted punishment. That the professional complainer goes around and then goes and just goes and punishes others by making them feel less through their own complaints. But one of the things I want to talk about complaining, and this doctored complaining, is that I think that it was all designed to create division. And moreover, you know, it also, you know, like we were talking about the Democratic Socialist of America meeting, you know, and I said, you know, and we talked about the people and they were just getting up and complaining about the other person, complaining about, and it's almost like if you complain so much, you are then delineating true issues. All right, so right now, many on the left would say that if you are a Trump supporter, and you guys know I'm a Trump supporter, many of you may, many of you may say, well, okay, because he is a Trump supporter, he is racist. Okay. Ridiculous argument. All right? But when a group of people possess a lot of control, okay, they can turn that into something more serious. Arrest. There was just a movie that I don't think is being released. I think it's called The Hunt, and it's about you know, how you know, wealthy liberals are going after middle Americans and turning them into you know, slaves, because that's what many on the left want. You see, when I left the left, it wasn't until I left the left, I should say, that, you know, and leaving, you know, BLM and leaving, you know, Antifa, and after trying to do all that, when I left the left, it was about me not being able to go that made me want to leave. The force of me that kept me there. Me being enslaved by thought, their thought. There was an experiment done, and a person took an ant and they dropped it on the center of a piece of paper. They took an indelible marker and they drew a line around the ant. The ant was not able to leave the line, even though the line wasn't there. There was no line. There was no line. There was no circle. The ant wasn't. The ant was a prisoner of their own belief. You see what I'm saying? And so that theory goes to show that that's what it was like for me to jump out of the left. It was like living in a gang that you're almost afraid to jump out of liberal thought. And that's what happens. And there are so many of us today that are in this position in the left that they cannot leave. They can't leave. And I'm telling every one of us that this sort of thing, these professional complainers, these people who are open accusers and witch trial judges, you know, are in third and fourth wave witches, I would say, are people who are purely using diabolic magic. Not that the magic in itself is diabolic, because we don't believe that. But we do believe that magic itself is being used for diabolic purposes. And that's what it's doing. And so, as a result of that, if there is venting, you know that the emotion itself was true, it was genuine, but that in complaining, there is no venting, therefore, the emotion just gets watered down. Think about this. Think about everybody you call a racist. Think about everybody you call a sexist. Think about everybody you call, and I'm talking about my opposition because they all know who I am. You call a sexist or a transphobe or what? I mean, I could use my gay card if I wanted to, but I don't. But yet I'm homophobic because I left. You see, and I don't believe in any of this, affectation, if you will, where boys are walking around like girls. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And it's not even scientifically proven. There's no science that we know of that proves that this sort of behavior is natural. It's not. Okay? And if you think about that for just a second, you need to also believe that it isn't that, me as a, Druid think that, for a second, we're not phobic. We just disagree because there's no logic or science behind your thoughts. But if you go ahead and continue to calling people Nazis, and think about all the people in Nazi Germany. Think about all them who lived in the concentration camps. But yet you're going to go ahead and continue to use these words and complain and use these words and complain and use these words. What it's doing is it's creating a cry wolf effect. And that cry wolf effect is truly about what? It is about, that cry wolf effect is about watering down the true issues. Trust me, there is racism. It shouldn't be called racism because racism is being happy with who you are. But anyway, we'll use the liberal term. Racism, if you will, or hatred towards somebody because they are a different pigmentation, it does exist. There are the George Jeffersons in the world. There are the Archie Bunkers in the world. And it doesn't necessarily make them wrong. It makes them okay with what they believe to be true. We need to allow more people to speak their mind. And I always said that if you took, George and, Archie and their wives and Weezy and Edith, and you put them all into one, you probably end up getting me. But it's funny because deep down inside, we all had a tendency to have bias. But we also have the tendency to grow. But if we're going to continue to say, well, he's a racist, you're watering down the argument. And there is true racism. There are people out there that hate people because they're white. There are people out there that hate people because they're black, and this bullshit nonsense of you're of a certain pigmentation and you're not capable of hating another because of their pigmentation. It's not true. It's not true. There's no... Show me the evidence that shows that people of a certain pigmentation cannot hate another person because of their pigmentation. And then apply that logic to all the isms, to all the ists, to all the phobics and phobias. And you're going to wind up with a bunch of logical fallacies. I need to continue because we've got to move on. And I'm going to read all your comments too, so get ready. So let's talk about understanding toxic language with these complainers, okay? Number one, they'll use something called shaming, okay? They shame. This is one of the things they do. They shame. They make you feel bad for who you are just because of who you are. Shaming. Forced diversity. They'll say, well, you're not hired for the job because we need one more person to make sure it's a McDonald's commercial. You see what I'm saying? And that's not that hurts business, number one. To hire a person because of the color of their skin, or to hire a person because of who they sleep with, or to hire a person because there's not enough quote-unquote trans in your employment. But also, why are we not hiring for skill? Why are we not hiring for character, content, and quality? It's forced diversity. PC overload. We live in a world today where and I gave the story earlier about the political cult that I was part of, the Democratic Socialist of America, and knowing that there's so much PC that even liberals are now attacking liberals for it. It's just crazy. It really is cray cray. All right, virtue signaling. That means that you take a complainer will take something they do and argue that their complaining is justified and right, and that you need to indulge in their complaining. Okay. Doxing. Doxing is another one, and this is an important one. So there's a page called Those Harmed by Me, Nicholas Declan, Niocl accented A-S, Declan, D-E-A-G-L accented A-N, Those Harmed by Nicholas Declan. And what it is it's basically a group of people represented that have facilitators from from organizations. And what they did was they formed a group against me saying that I did them harm. Okay? Now, when you think of harm, you think of like somebody was raped, or somebody was the victim of pedophilia, or or somebody was abusing somebody, right? Or harm even, there was a gunshot wound. This kind of thing, right? That's harm. Whereas when you go to their page, there's nothing about, they're just complaints. They're all complaints. And they're all unjustified. You see? And so you know you're doing a great job when these other groups that are all about complaining, don't succeed. It's that true. All right. Another privilege. You hear that word. That's the word of a constant complainer. You have privilege. You have privilege. Because by stating you have privilege, it's stating I don't have privilege. You have privilege. Most complainers, I would say, the complainer will find somebody that looks exactly like them and call them out for privilege when it's invented. Intersectionality. That means that, by the way, and getting back, I'm sorry, I didn't really go into doxing that much, but doxing just means when they put up defaming arguments or documents that are portrayed in a way that aren't actually true. Intersectionality. That means that you end up isolating people to a point where everyone ends up in their own corners. Do you see what I'm saying? So that you end up with so many intersections, and an intersection would be, say, a marginalization, a perceived marginalization, not real marginalization, a perceived marginalization. All right, Oprah, she's marginalized. Oprah Winfrey, she's marginalized because she's black. Well, I'll tell you what, if she's marginalized and in her little corner of her little intersection, I wish to be marginalized just like her. All right, hypercriticism. Hypercriticism is when you go ahead and are so critical of another that you begin tearing at the fabric of their Druidic tetrachronomy. You attack their heart, you attack their mind, you attack their soul, and you attack their spirit, and you take it and you shred them, just like you would take a document and put it through a shredder. Moving the goalposts. This is another big thing that complainers do. When they see that they're not getting their way, they'll make it so that their complaint is even worse than what it is, right? So they'll continue to move the goalposts so that this way you're distracted until they catch your attention. Okay? And that's moving. Another moving goalpost would be when they continue to jump from here to there to Washington Square, and what ends up happening is that you're so spun that you don't even know what the hell you're arguing anymore. Okay. Next, my mom is better than your mom. We call this one true Scotsman. A complainer will always say, well, my mom's better than your mom. But they don't give reasons why their mom is better than your mom. Because there's only one true Scotsman. And it's just saying that, I'm the real whatever. And you'll hear Druids go around, they'll do this all the time. I'm the real Druid. I'm the real Druid. Look at how many people looked at me and said, you're not a real Druid. No Druid will recognize the Druid Circle as an official organization. Well, that's fine. You can do that. But I don't need you to tell me that for me to be neither a real Druid nor a fake Druid, because I am true to Druidism. Therefore, I am truly Druidic. Therefore, I am a true Druid. Compounded marginalization and intersectionality are basically hand in hand. What they'll do is they'll say, well, you're black. okay? And because you're, all right, but you don't have it. You're a man, but you don't have it as bad as a black woman. But then you don't. But then that black woman doesn't have it as bad as a black woman who is Muslim. But that black woman who is Muslim doesn't have it as bad as a black woman who is Muslim who is really a man but is trans. Do you see what I'm saying? But then that trans Muslim black woman doesn't have it as bad as the trans black woman of who is Muslim in a who is disabled. Do you see what I'm saying? And it's called compounding, right? And that in itself is, again, all doctored complaining. It's just simply not true. Because we don't know others' experiences unless we are that person. And our experience, we can never experience an experience that another does experience. Remember that. Doctored accusations, we talked about this. You're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a homophobe, you're this, you're that. It's all BS. It's all BS. I get it all the time. You know, many people think I'm straight. And I'm like, I don't give a shit whether or not you think I'm straight or not. I don't care. Next. Forcing sublime delusions. Forcing sublime delusions. This means the complainer will get out, and what they will do is they will force those on the reciprocal end of them to believe that their complaint is true. That's what they will do. They'll do that, you see. And so this is all doctored. It's all made. It's not natural, if you will. It's just simply not natural. Until the other person believes that they are to believe that complaint. Do you see what I'm saying? I am privileged. I am privileged. Oh man, what do? I feel bad. And people who are not able to critically think will believe this. Sensationalization. Sensationalization is another type of thing that the complainers will use. Complainers will use things like they'll make a mountain out of a molehill. They'll make a mountain out of a molehill. They'll go ahead and they'll make their complaint look like a volcano is getting ready to erupt. When it's not. It's not. They're either simply living in the world of delusion, or they've been paid incredibly well to continue to do what they're doing, which in most cases is the latter, especially today. Next, cognitive dissonance. And that's really a big thing when, you look, if you go back to the page, those harmed by Nicholas Declan, on Facebook, you'll see these organizations. They won't even say they're in Ireland, so obviously they don't even know who I am. But they're not. They're from here, right here in America. It was founded here in Michigan. We're ADF. We're not going to go there. So anyway, the cognitive dissonance. What it is they'll go ahead and they'll use an argument, right? And then they'll use a complaint. And then what they'll do is then they'll shift that complaint. This is not moving the goalpost. This is truly cognitive. This is where They screw you up so badly and twist you into a pretzel until you are eating that pretzel. Okay? And that's what they want you to do. They want you to eat their pretzel. Unfortunately, it's empty calories, so it probably wouldn't do you any well. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no pattern. There's no logical follow-up. And that's why, we need to understand these sort of, the toxic language of these paid complainers. Next, addressing genuine complaints. All right. So if the complaint is real or not real, how do you know? All right. Number one. All right. Use cognitive restructuring. If a person is complaining, you can use cognitive restructuring to help get them. And I don't have time to go through what cognitive restructuring is, but I'm going to give you some tips right now to help you understand that better. Number one, identify the consistent need. If the complainer is complaining about something and it's consistent, right? It doesn't alter, it doesn't jump down, the emotions may, but the complaint remains the same, okay? Identify that, number one. Step two, okay? Reframe the situation for them, all right? Help them, if they want to see things change, help them change the way they see things, okay? That's number two. But only if their complaint has not altered. Do you see what I'm saying? Number three, once you reframe their situation and help them change the way they see things, change your responses through positive reinforcement, okay? To help get them out of that and move them into something else. And finally, ask them, what do you think the solutions are to this? They hate that. If they're paid complainers, they'll hate you for that one. But if any of these things, if there is no consistent need, if you can't, reframe the situation for them, or they refuse to, don't change your responses, and see anyway if they can, create solutions. If they can't create solutions for them, and don't get me wrong, sometimes if you do have a legitimate problem, a gunshot wound, I mean, obviously, you're not going to be sitting there asking for solutions. You're going to be performing things to help get that wound healed. But that's how you know it won't be genuine, because it doesn't follow that rule of logic. And cognitive restructuring cannot happen if, in fact, the complainer is either delusional or paid to do the job he or she or they are doing. Once you find out that it is cognitively distorted, be it paid or otherwise, this is how you shut down the complainer. Number one, you've got to ignore the attention-seeking behavior. End of sentence. Once you ignore that you have to, if you really want to shut them down, you could then call out their the chaotic repetition. You're going on and on and on, and you're not actually doing anything about it. Number three, try to address one thing at a time. If they go on and on and on, they're moving the goalpost, doing all this other stuff, stop them immediately and address one thing at a time before they're able to get out the next argument. Do You see? And you break up their run-ons. Most of these people, especially online, they'll write and write and write and write and write and write without any breakup, without any sort of... It just, they that's what they do. You see what I'm saying? But you break that up by addressing one thing at a time. But if you really want to destroy their control over you, this is the last bomb you throw at them. You redirect them. You get them to think about something totally different, and they'll be like, wow. And paid complainers are pretty good at this. Let me give you a little situation the other day. So I'm over there and I'm walking down the street, and somebody called me a racist because I didn't give them money. They were homeless. They weren't homeless. They were pandering. And this is, you gotta stand your ground. Call them out. Call them out. Call them out. And I did. Guy called me a racist. And I said, I beg your pardon? Did you just call me a racist? Get real hyper-masculine with them. They hate that. Get real hyper-masculine. Even if you're a female, get real hyper-masculine with them. You know? Use your strong feminine side. Sorry about that, guys. And they'll, they won't know what to do. They clam up. They can't take it. Like, wow, somebody challenged me. You see what I'm saying? That's true Druidism. Now we're coming to the end, so I want to give you guys some magic, teach you some magic, and then after I teach you some magic, then I'll go ahead and, we'll go from there. First of all, number one, your mantra. All right, we don't use mantras. Druids don't use mantras. We use something I call the Earl, or the Forkerl. And basically what it is we implant two parts. You can't keep on saying, I win, all right? You have to state something that you're going to do along with the desired outcome, right? So you say, well, then that's not very magical. No, it is. It's incredibly magical because you're actually partaking in what you want to come to be. So the Adl or Forkerl is in mastering each logical argument. Listen to it again. In mastering each logical argument, my intuition is strengthened. In mastering each logical argument, my intuition is strengthened. Say it over and over. That means that you got to get your ass into the books and start learning your logic. Where do I learn logic at? How do I learn logic? Okay. Well, obviously, you could join Druid University in a couple of years when we start, or if you don't want to wait that long. It's funny real fast, not to interrupt. So I'm over there and I'm BSing with some troll, and he's like, I'm really interested. I want to join the Druid University. So I said, so what part? The part of where you start $34,000 a year, or the part where you or the part where it's a 24-year university? It's like a 24-year university, and that's because of the fact that these people have no idea of what it's like to get your hands dirty to earn something. You gotta earn your way through. You can't just bullcrap your way through things. You gotta earn it to achieve it. You don't just sit there and whine and complain your whole damn lives. and whine and complain about something that took place years ago that you had nothing to do with, that another person had nothing to do with. I don't care what it is. Move forward with your life. And so he's like 24 years, so it's all over the internet. He's crazy. He went to 24-year university. Well, it took me 21 years to get my black belt because I refused to move up in rank until I mastered each level. And even in the Marine Corps, I didn't want to go ahead and move up until I knew that I knew what I knew really, really, really well. Slow and steady wins the race, not tomorrow gets me the trophy. In mastering each logical argument, my intuition is strengthened. Go online, pick up a logic book or a book on logic, just anything. I think I gave you guys a book. It was called a rule book for arguments. Can't remember the last name of the guy. I could put it in there for you, but it's only a 79-page book. You can pick it up, learn it really well, and learn symbolic logic. It'll help you disseminate them. And finally, last but not least, I'm going to teach you some drill. And here we go, okay? Whoa, what do we got here? Okay, so what we have here is something we call sigil, but not necessarily, because you're going to draw this on your forehead, all right? Let me put it on this side so you guys can see that a little better. Can you see that? Okay, you got it? Because I'm going to put it now. If you guys want, you could slide your screen over so that this way you swipe to the left or to the right, and the comments will disappear. Okay, here we go. So what you want to do is you want to take your thumb, okay, always your thumb, and what you're going to do is you're going to use your forehead as the canvas. And what you're going to do, step number one, is you're going to draw that dot. You're going to just put your thumb right there, okay, right above, slightly above, right in between your eyebrows, slightly above. Just put it there and hold it, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to draw two squiggly lines. Step number one, step number two. It doesn't matter which way. You can go left to right, you can go right to left. Not really. It's just get the lines up, okay? So you're going to put a dot, and when you put that dot in there, you're going to think that's who you are, okay? You are that dot, okay? And then you're going to draw a squiggly line above it, squiggly line below it, okay? And then watch what you're going to do. You're going to go back to that dot, okay? And you're going to shoot outwards. 1 way, 2 way, 3 way, 4 way. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you're going to go clockwise, okay? You're going to go 1, then you're going to come back, 2, coming down, okay? 3 going down, and then 4 going up, all right? And if you're in the southern hemisphere, you're going to go counterclockwise. That is going to help you become an awesome, awesome, awesome person in ensuring that you are able to destroy any person's logical argument. And with that, I want to say that I read to you in the beginning a section from Lewis Spence's book, The History and Origins of Druidism, because it fit perfectly. Because you attempt to do something that is not natural to a person and harm that other person. And Druid's reverences for trees were so high. I won't even till this day. I don't even like to break off branches. I don't like to do it. I mean, and if I have to do it for some reason, I will. But I don't like to. So let's go back to that first quote and let's read it together again. And then I'll give you guys a blessing. All right, here we go, you guys. Let's start. The Mile Oak near Oswestry in Shropshire was deemed sacrosanct, and a local ballot declared of it: to break a branch was deemed a sin, and a bad luck job for neighbors. For fire, sickness, and the like would mar their honest labors. And that's exactly what we talked about tonight. Let me just go ahead and see some of your things here. Oh, here we go. All right, I can only see so much. Michael Thorpe seems to be here. It can only be all out of manipulation. I think I did mention that tonight. No real means to an end, exactly, Mike. I'm sorry, Mitchell. Sorry about that, Mitchell. Yes. Comes from intent. I want to talk about intent too, right? The purpose of origin, right? So if you're there, purposefully there to break off the branch, right, like we talked about, from those who have really honestly labored to have that tree up and running, if your intent is ill positioned, you'll wither. Druids aren't so much into the whole karma thing. I don't think true Druids weren't. But it's just natural. It's just natural magic. Ill intent creates your own withering. Let's see here. There is no hate in disagreement. Right. Oh, that's an awesome point too. True disagreements, there is no hate, right? I mean, we're on Parler right now, and Parler, it's a free speech platform, because we're afraid to say something that might be offensive. It's all fake. Nobody's really offended. This is all fake. They believe they are, but they're really not. They don't know what true offense is. Trust me, when you're walking down the street, and somebody spits on you for being, a dude who is okay being around other dudes, if you get what I'm saying, that's something to be offended by. But whatever, sticks and stones, right? All right, so there is no, Mitchell. There is no hate and disagreement. You see what I'm saying? How many people on Parler am I talking to, and I'm just like, what the heck, man? I might not agree, but you know what? That's fine. You bring it up. You talk. You have a civil conversation about it. No real... what the hell does I say? No real heart. Yeah, Mitchell, no real heart. And that's sad, because the Druidic tetrachonomy I talk about, the heart, the soul, the mind, the spirit, that gives one the strength and the vision, the courage and the wisdom. These are disappearing as we speak. Just something to think about. All right. That's it. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for watching. If you know a person that is watching this, where that it feels they're stuck, and feels that they're that ant that can't get out of that circle that doesn't exist, please share it with them. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know that there are other people out there that have left the left. Let them know that There are people that left the mind, the indoctrination that left all of that stuff, because we are out there and we aren't taking it. We're going to stand up and we're going to be, we're going to be Odin. And I think that's really, and for those that don't know, the word God has been translated from the word Odin. And so it just means gatherer. So I want to say, I hope that you really do share it, get it out, get people to hear another point of view. It's just something to think about. All right, here's your blessing, everybody. This goes beyond time and space. Goes beyond time and space, wherever you're at. Wherever you're at. May the gods bless you. May the goddesses keep you. May the mysticals shine their light upon you. May your ancestors remain with you forever and ever. Well without end, Girawan. Dat chegou niet. Este lo egoist. Be it thus. Be it thus. Have a good one, everybody.